Hello, welcome to this recording on behalf of Mind in Somerset. My name is Alison Baker. I'm Corporate Partnerships Coordinator for Mind in Somerset. And over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about mental health, your mental health and that of those around you. We're going to look at the prevalence of mental health. We're going to look at what is mental health, both good and bad mental health. And we're going to look at some top tips that you can use to support your own mental health. And whilst you're looking at this in presentation, I want you to think about two things. I want you to think about how your own head is at any point in time. And also to consider how you could support those around you, so friends and family. And I'm recording this on the 8th of October, and obviously we're in very moving, changing times at the moment. This presentation isn't specifically about the situation that we find ourselves in the moment with the coronavirus pandemic, but I will make reference to it. Because we can't ignore it at the moment, can we? So let's make a start. So what is mental health? We hear a lot about mental health at the moment, don't we? And it seems that you can't turn on the television or the radio without hearing about somebody's mental health. So the latest pop star, sports star, celebrity talking about their own mental health. And that is really, really good news. I think we've come an awful long way since a few years ago, 5-6 years ago maybe, when it was still very much a taboo subject. But now it's spoken openly about in the media. And in fact, only this morning on Jeremy Vine, they had a whole article on there about, a whole feature on there about mental health, specifically anxiety related to the coronavirus. And I heard a horrible statistic actually that, or a horrible fact that the lasting effects due to the coronavirus pandemic on people's mental health is likely to far outweigh that of the virus itself. And I think it's really now, sort of 6 months on, that we're beginning to see the realization of that. So, the reality is, though, that our mental health is on a spectrum, just like our physical health. So we have good days and we have bad days. And when we're in our good days, so in the green area where we're excelling, things are going really, really well. And I'm sure you'll all recognize this. There are days when you bounce out of bed, you're full of energy, you can make decisions, your brain is clear, you're sleeping well, you've got lots of friends, you're making lots of contacts. At the other end of the spectrum, when we're struggling or in crisis, things really are not going so well. So we are likely to be losing sleep, we're not likely to be eating properly, we're not likely to be seeing friends and family, we're going to be withdrawn from that, and we're going to be irritable in our mood. Now, just like our physical health, our mental health changes. Probably unlike our physical health, it can change really within the day, within the hour. And I don't know about you, but I can have days when, once I've had my first cup of tea in the morning, I can be really quite good. I'm certainly in that thriving area. And then there could be a combination of things that could send me into that struggling area. And it could be anything. It could be my dog's decided to attack another dog on our morning walk. It could be that I can't find the car keys or my mobile phone when I want to leave the house, or I find that I've got a bill to pay that I didn't know about. And everybody's trigger points are different. And it can, within the matter of a few minutes, send me down into that other area. Do you know what? That is actually really natural. And for anybody who thinks that they're in that excelling area all the time, or tell you that they are, that's almost certainly not true. I heard an expression this morning that the only people who have absolutely no worries or anxiety are those people in the graveyard. I think that's probably true. It's a very natural emotion to have. So there's good mental health and poor mental health. And actually, it only really begins to be a problem when we are in the bottom, so the really orange and red areas of that spectrum, for a significant period of time and can't find our way out. And the medical profession would say sort of 2 weeks or more where you can't find your way out. And then it becomes a mental health illness, a mental health problem, whatever you want to call it. But it is a spectrum, and we're all on that spectrum, and I'd like you to recognise that. So the prevalence of mental health, this is a really difficult one to actually pin down, because although we talk much more now about our mental health, it's still quite a taboo subject. And not only do we often not like to talk about our own mental health, but often we don't want to inquire from other people. And people sometimes in denial don't acknowledge that they have a problem. But bearing all that in mind, it's estimated that around 1 in 4 adults will experience a mental illness each year. So that's a huge amount. That's a quarter of us. The figures for men and women are actually quite interesting, and I am making some generalizations here. But women are 75% more likely to go and seek support for mental health. And it's thought that probably the prevalence of mental health within women is slightly higher than in men. However, men are 75% more likely to commit suicide. They're 75% more likely to be missing persons, homeless, with drugs and alcohol issues. So you can see that actually, although men might not be presenting early on with the problem, it does hit men generally, and I'm making generalizations here, much harder, and the end results are usually or sometimes a lot worse for men. So I think this is probably stating the bleeding obvious, actually, but these are not normal times. And although we've had a period where we began to thought that things were getting back to normal, or that new normal, whatever we want to call it, there's still an awful lot of change and an awful lot of uncertainty around. As I said at the time of recording this, I hear on the news today that there's likely to be more announcements on Monday about lockdown measures and the like. So the fact that these are not normal times means it's quite acceptable not to feel normal, actually. And even in normal times, it's okay not to be okay. And therefore to react to things differently and be a bit out of kilter. Back in March, all of us faced sudden and enormous changes to our everyday lives with the backdrop of the virus. And that is still around. And as I said, we don't know what's around the corner for us. And different people react to these things in different ways. As I say, different people have different triggers. So for some people, they might have remained in the top of that spectrum and carried on quite as normal. I think that's probably very, very few people. Others may have experienced and continue to experience low levels of anxiety or depression. And others will have plummeted into quite serious mental health conditions. And here at Mind in Somerset, we have a Mindline telephone support service, which within a week of lockdown, we extended to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it is hugely popular. Popular is probably not the right word, but we get regular callers. It runs right the way through the night as well. So we know that there are a lot of people that are facing quite serious mental health problems. But, I think for the majority of people, this has been and continues to be a roller coaster, and our lives are a roller coaster because there are different triggers that affect different people. So there are days when we're actually really quite good, and then the next day we can be down in that sort of orange and red area. And I think the actual lockdown and the after effects and the uncertainty has actually heightened that. I know a lot of people, and I'm myself included, who, in April, May, June, things were really not so bad. We had good weather. We live in a lovely area. We could be very grateful for all of that. But there will be days when we think about the bigger picture, we think about some of our relatives that we can't see, and think about what others might be going through. and those days are not so good. And it is important to recognize that not to judge others by our own reactions. So just because something is affecting us in a certain way, it might not be affecting others, and vice versa. So different people have different levels of resilience and have different triggers that might affect that resilience. And so it's important not to judge others by our own reactions. We're going to look at some top tips for improving your mental health and your resilience. But none of these are rocket science, none of them at all. And they're all within your gift to actually do something about. But sometimes it's good to be reminded of the obvious. And some of these will resonate with you more than others. And also some will be more relevant to you depending on where you are in that spectrum at any given time. I just want to say one more thing before I look at these tips. Certainly, it's specifically in relation to the coronavirus pandemic. We heard a lot, didn't we, about how we're all in the same boat. And then I heard somebody say something quite different, and they said this. They said, we are not all in the same boat. We are all in the same storm, but some of us have bigger boats than others. And I thought that was a really brilliant expression, because there is no doubt that if you are in a house with lots of outdoor space, you didn't lose your job, you're not financially affected, you don't have children going to university or back to school, or parents in a care home, then the chances are that you weathered this storm much better than somebody who perhaps now is in the northeast of the country, they've lost their jobs, children at university or at school. So this is what I mean by we're all in this, it's sort of different levels actually. So we're not all in the same boat, but we're all in the same storm, but some of us have bigger boats than others. All of the things we're going to talk about in the rest of this presentation are really about self-care. It's about putting yourself first. And I know that you are all volunteers, so you are used to giving. You're used to giving of your time to other people and to the community. And that is brilliant. And actually that's seen as one of the top 5 things that we say to people to help to improve their mental health, which is about giving something back. But there has to be a level. Because if you are always giving, you are going to drain yourself. You're going to drain yourself of physical and emotional energy, and you can't pour from an empty cup. And I see it like a bank account. So when you are well, when you're in that top half of the spectrum, is to invest in yourself. So if you do feel yourself slip into the bottom half, you've got some withdrawals to make. Your bank account, your emotional bank account is not empty. So one of the most important things in improving or maintaining your mental health is to talk. Those of you old enough to remember will know that BT had an advertising campaign saying it's good to talk, and it is. It's really good to have friends. It's good to expand your network of people, both in difficult times and in not so difficult times. And actually, if you are having some problems, so if you're in that sort of surviving or problematic area, it's to find somebody to talk to. So to share that issue, to share that problem. Again, there's another expression that a problem shared is a problem halved. And it really is true. Find somebody who can, find your cheerleader, find somebody who's in your corner. That might be a friend, it might be a family member, it might be your GP. Actually, and a GP is a great place to go to talk to, because they'll know where to refer you. But that person, somebody who will listen to you without judgment, they won't try and solve your issue, but they will listen to you without judgment. And if you can find that, if you can find a way to talk and not keep any issues into yourself, then you'll find that that's a great step in actually improving your mental health. So linked to this is the need to stay connected. Now, we've all got friends, I hope we've all got friends and family, but sometimes when we're not really feeling quite right, there is a natural tendency to want to withdraw. And the more we withdraw, the worse that things get. So to have a really good circle of friends, a good family setup, if you have it, is brilliant, but certainly good friends, if you can find them, is hugely supportive to your mental health. It's not so easy at the moment, and it might not be so easy over the next few weeks to actually keep in contact with friends and family. And I know that was a huge source of stress and anxiety for people early on. But if you can link with people through the wonders of technology now, through Zoom, through Skype, or even the good old telephone, that's better than nothing. So keep talking to people, find the people that make you happy, basically. The other thing is to keep to a routine, and that's really difficult when our routines have been taken away from us. And that's not just because of the coronavirus. It might be because we've just retired, or we've just changed jobs, or for various reasons. But it's really important to try and keep that routine. So to get up at the same time, to go to bed at the same time within reason, to eat at the same time, and to eat well as well. Again, our food is one of the things that tends to go out the window when we are not feeling quite right. We can tend to comfort eat, or not eat at all, or not eat enough. So we need to maintain a healthy diet, because that will help as well with our emotional and physical bank account that I talked about. But to keep a routine as much as we possibly can is a great way of maintaining our mental health. If you're going out and getting your exercise, try and do that at a similar time if you can. Phone calls, any work commitments, just try and have that routine. It's hugely important. I think that once we find ourselves, in the middle of the morning watching morning television, and that's a huge problem for people if you're doing that on a regular basis and finding you're not sort of getting on with your day. And linked to this, if it works for you, and it doesn't work for everybody, but is to have a to-do list. I could not exist without my to-do list. I have to have a daily to-do list, and there is great pleasure in ticking off the things that I have done. And there's a huge benefit to our mental health to find that we are moving forwards. So a to-do list really helps with that, actually. And don't have a great big long one, because you will concentrate more on the things that you haven't done than the things that you have. Just write down 3, 4, 5 things that you want to get done that day and tick them off when they're done. One of the issues when we're not quite in such good mental health is we get a bit of fog brain and we can't concentrate. So actually a to-do list, writing it down really helps to keep us concentrated. Exercise. Now, of all the things that has been scientifically proven to improve our mental health, is exercise. We release endorphins, which actually go straight to the brain, and the rest of the body, which help to improve our mood. And it was great actually to see that when we were in the full lockdown, how exercise was still being encouraged. And there were a lot of people out there walking, cycling, running, more than what you'd normally see. And if you can get to do that in nature, outside, then even better, because again, it's scientifically proven that being outside in nature amongst greenery will lift your mood as well. And if any of you out there usually run or cycle with headphones in, or with a fitness app, I would highly recommend just occasionally don't. Just go out there for the pleasure. Just go out there and observe what you can see. I mean, this was great when there was no traffic around, but even now, just do it for the sake of it, not to try and get faster or go longer or get fitter. Just occasionally, just get out there for getting out there's sake, and that you'll find huge, huge benefits to your mental health. Gosh, news. Yeah. I don't know how many more ways that we can hear statistics on the news at the moment. This is specifically related to the current situation that we have. My own experience, is that I had to really limit my news intake and my social media intake. I certainly stopped watching the late news because I didn't sleep for a few days afterwards. I think it's important to be informed, but not to go overboard with that information, and recognize when enough is enough. It's a huge source of anxiety and worry. So just, you want, as I say, you want to be informed. You don't want to put your head in the sand, because that's probably not helping either. But just to know when enough is enough. So mindfulness, we hear a lot about mindfulness these days, don't we? It's not about full-on meditations and sitting in a darkened room. It's actually about living in and being in the moment, and just practicing that being in the moment. If you are having days when you are feeling a bit off kilter, or that you have some worries or some anxieties, is just to stop, breathe and think before you move on. And actually to stop and think, where am I right now? What can I do right now? What can I influence and what can I not influence? There are an awful lot of things out there that are outside of our control at the moment. It goes back to the news that I was talking about before. But actually, if you can just stop and just be in the moment and just be grateful for what you have at the moment, and we'll come to great gratitude in a minute, it is hugely, hugely beneficial to your mental health. I love this quote. Viktor E. Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and he says that when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that seems a little bit deep and meaningful, and it is. But what that means is, if you can't change something, then change your attitude towards it. And I think once you can get your head around that it's possible to do that, actually it takes a level of worry and anxiety away. It's not easy to do, but it's worth at least recognizing that it can be done. So when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And I mentioned gratitude there as well. It's, it's not a particularly big word, but it's a hugely important word when looking at maintaining or improving our mental health. Again, if you're having an off day or feeling that you're not quite up to full speed, then it's really good to stop and think about all the good things that are happening, all the things that you are grateful for. Again, it's hugely powerful. And what I do, and what I know a lot of other people do, is to have a gratitude diary. So actually, at the end of the day, you have a notebook by the side of your bed or whatever, and you write down those things that you're grateful for that day, or those things that made you happy, those things that made you smile. And it could be anything. It could be lyrics of a song you heard. It could be somebody smiled at you. It could be that you saw a rainbow. And believe me that after a few days, only a few days, you will be looking out for the things to go in your gratitude diary. And once you start looking out for the good things, you tend to see less of the bad things. So I just wanted to talk about Major Tom, Sir Tom Moore now, as I think he is. There was no doubt that he had, and continues to have actually, because he pops up now again, a hugely positive impact for a lot of people. Really, really inspirational character. And his quote, which gets used a lot, is that tomorrow is going to be a good day. Far be it from me to actually change a quote from Sir Tom, but I'm going to, and suggest that instead of thinking that tomorrow is going to be a good day, that we think that today is going to be a good day. Remember, thinking about the here and now rather than a tomorrow that may never come, well, which will always come, but tomorrow is tomorrow is tomorrow. So we can think about today is going to be a good day. That really helps. So I wanted to have a little look, we're nearly at the end now, at some of the resources out there that can support you, or if you want to know a little bit more about this stuff. And these are some that I have found useful, not necessarily through Mind, but personally myself. First of all, there's a website called Headspace. If you want to find out a little bit more about mindfulness, you can sign up on the Headspace app and on the Headspace website, and there's loads of information in there, and loads of information about courses, online courses and stuff, and meditations if you want to do through Headspace. This is a podcast that I've just come across, and it's on the BBC Sounds website. It's called How Do You Cope? Ellis and John are actually two stand-up comedians that are on 5 Live, but they are interviewing various different, not just celebrities, but people in public profile about their coping mechanisms and things that you do. There are loads of these podcasts on there. I've only listened to 2 or 3 of them so far. But there's an ex-footballer, there's an ex-NHS intensive care doctor, and there's a News at 10 journalist, but I'd say it's well worth a listen. And Action for Happiness is the other website, which is great, actually. They have a monthly calendar with daily tips for happiness and improving your mental health and lots of other stuff, and they have webinars and all sorts of things that you can access, and most of that is free as well. Certainly the podcast is free, some of the Headspace and some of the Action for Happiness is as well. Lots of free content out there. The other thing, if you wanted to read a little bit more about ways to help support your own and others' mental health, there's of course the Mind Mental Health website, there's the National Mind website, and then there's the Mind in Somerset website as well. I mentioned this before. If you are beginning to really struggle and you feel that you haven't got somebody obvious that's your cheerleader in your corner, then the Mind in Somerset's Mind Line could be really useful for you. It's open now, as I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's manned by highly qualified volunteers and also paid staff as well, who will be the first port of call for you to talk to, first port of call to listen to you, and will be able to signpost you on to other places. So if you wanted to take a note of that number, or you can Google it, all this information is out there anyway. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. On behalf of Mind in Somerset, I want to say thank you for inviting us to come and do that presentation. I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope you found it useful. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.